Ayo, back with another one. It's always make pictures, and today I think I'm gonna just be chopping up something that's been really pushing me, you know, an idea that's given me so much leg room that I can just see myself running with it, and that's entering my villain mode. For too long, I've kind of just always been able to show up for other people. I've managed to work within systems and, learn how to acclimatize into existing systems and structures. But what happens when you disappear in all of that? What happens when, what you're doing starts to feel more important than how you feel? And I don't think that we always enter villain mode from a place of anger. I think sometimes it's just, you being able to actually understand your own dreams and ideals and find a way to actualize them. With the paintings that I have behind me, I've also stretched a concept. I think I started with the photography series a couple of weeks ago, and it was me kind of developing the character, because I always start with photography, always kind of, it's easier to compose pictures for me than it is to compose paintings. So my process always starts with photos. And even before that is the concept, obviously. But I started with the photo series, and that kind of allowed me to see how I can stretch the concept, And then after the photo series, I moved into the scamps, which then allowed me to, break down the anatomy for this new character. And now I'm at a space where I've painted it, and it gives it a whole new life and a new dimension. And yeah, right now, these two homies behind me, I think, start with this guy, he's kind of padded and soft, and he seems to be like a boxer, so he's a fighter. One thing about my character is that I'll definitely fight for my ideas, in corporate and within life and the art space. I've always been the type of person who goes for something that feels difficult, or something that's not really, it's not easy to attain, just given the situation or circumstance. So expressing this fighter guy has become very important. But what's important about his anatomy is also that he's got these biggish looking muscles and what they represent for me is the performance aspect of life, I guess, because he's not very strong. He's strong, but the padding on the muscles is very exaggerated, because he has to put off that he's stronger than he actually is. And yeah, I think being in the space that I'm in right now, having to balance my passion and what I have to do, I've seen myself perform a lot more. And something I was reflecting on is, I believe my performance is better in art. I don't know if I'm as great at performing for people and in spaces, especially every day with no little cause, you know what I mean? So I feel for me, performance is strictly and reserved for my art. And yeah, I think this is one way for me to reflect on that fighter spirit, that performance spirit, and also just how all these pressures and things like distorts your idea of strength, because I think that sometimes those set conditions aren't also very intentional. So you're also kind of being influenced by something that's not really intentionally put in place. And I feel like a villain would create a law or a world where things are way more intentional, and like their strength would be something that's like desired, you know? And then on this side, this one, he feels a little more infected. So I like the idea of, you know, the villain having different suits. So in this one, he's infected, and that's because, like, you know, the spaces that we've moved through do influence us. And in general, maybe even as a man, you kind of have a lot of so-called responsibilities and things you have to show up for. I mean, for me, you know, it's my family. You know, I don't have the privilege to kind of sit back and like explore art. I have to go out there and find other ways to afford my art, you know, and you know, the space that I'm in right now is one of those ways. But within that, what I find has infected me is that, like, needing approval or validation has in a way stifled my confidence in some spaces. So, you know, you almost, because like you present your ideas and ideas can get shut down, or your ideas have to be redirected, and it's like you're working a lot with criticism, and sometimes you don't necessarily understand the criticism, you know, or the viewpoint in which the criticism comes from. So it kind of like dampens your confidence a little bit. And so this guy over here is just like, he's had to wear all of those responsibilities, all the criticism, all the challenges, his dreams on his back, and kind of just and kind of just move forward with life. And yeah, I think we'll see the character move into different spaces, which also have their own sense of like conflict and tension, and we'll see how the character kind of stands within that scenario. Drinking out of my mug. This is a mug from my I Am series, and yeah, one thing that you can definitely expect is that I will be producing products out of these artworks, because it's not just about the painting, but it's also about how we can turn the art into, you know, other types of products that you can use, which will constantly remind you of these different states and these different stories. Yeah, I've absolutely been loving where I'm at right now. I think just being able to create and do my own thing is like lifted my vibration a lot more, and super excited to continue sharing the story. This is Words Make Pictures.